In this video, I'm gonna show you the most underrated opening in chess, the Tennison's Gambit. I am 1800 and I win more than 75% of my games with this gambit. With this gambit, you'll get positions like this in which you'll win your opponent's queen in the first 5 moves. And even if you don't win their queen, you'll get a really dominating position where you have your knight open, your bishop open, and completely developed while your opponent will be stuck on the back rank. And as you can see, I have won 72% of my games in this opening. I am 1800 and even players up to this level fall and lose to this opening. So if you are below 2000, you might want to stick for the rest of the video. So first of all, I'm going to show you the trap that is in this opening, which is how to win your opponent's queen in the first 5 moves. So the Tennison's Gambit goes, first you play e4 and your opponent responds with the Scandinavian defense d5. In this position, instead of doing anything, you give away this pawn with a tempo on your knight and you develop your knight to g3. Your opponent will take and you go there and attack this pawn. Your opponent will go here with the knight to defend this pawn, and in this position you gambit another pawn. Your opponent will obviously take to get rid of this weakness and doubled pawn, and you'll take back with the bishop. Now your opponent will be like, this knight is really annoying and exerting pressure on his position, so he'll try to kick the knight back with this move. But in this position, you play the brilliant knight takes f7, brilliant move. The idea behind this move is to fork the queen and the rook. Now your opponent, to prevent that, will take back with the king, and in this position you play another brilliant move. You give this check with the bishop. Now your opponent cannot run back to defend his queen and he has to take, and when he does that, you go and take his queen and you're winning in 5 moves. Now in this position, let me warn you, there is a trap. Your opponent will try to go here and try to win your queen. You can't take this bishop, because if you do, your opponent will give this check and now your queen is hanging. So you'll have to lose your queen again. So you have to be careful of this check, and after this, you can simply take this pawn and now you're up a queen and winning. What happens if your opponent does not fall for the gambit? So if your opponent does he goes like this, and in this position he doesn't fall for the gambit and doesn't play this move and plays something to defend the queen, then you have to play like normal. But if your opponent plays this move, the same thing will work again. You sacrifice your knight and the same thing, and you win the queen. If your opponent plays a lazy move like this, you do the exact same thing, which is to sacrifice. Now your opponent can play good moves, for example this, defending the queen, and now you can't do this. Your opponent can play this to shield the queen, and now you can't sacrifice your knight. Your opponent can go here and now you can't sacrifice your knight either, because if you do that, first of all, your opponent can go here and guard. Secondly, even after this, you can't take the queen because your opponent will win it back, and now you will be losing and black will be winning. So these are all the lines when your opponent falls for the trap. Even if your opponent does not, I have a 75% win rate after that. So in this position, what if your opponent plays a good move like this and guards the knight against any shenanigans? In this position, you castle your king, and although engine thinks black is slightly better, you have a really dominating position where you have your knight developed like this, your bishop pressuring this pawn. You'll bring your rook here, you're already castled. You'll bring the knight here. This board is really open and you have your bishops open. So in this position, it's practically better for white. Even if the engine thinks that black is better, you'll be winning most of your games with this gambit. So after this, the game might go like here, and now if your opponent ever takes you, now you cannot sacrifice because the queen is guarded, so you just simply go back. Remember, if you go here and you trade the queens up if you trade the queens, you will be worse and you're already down a pawn. So you don't want to do that. And instead, you simply go here with the knight and continue playing the game. And you are developed clearly better. You go rook here, bishop here, and then you start attacking. You'll plop your knight in the center of the board. You'll attack with your f pawn and you'll make your opponent's life miserable. In this position, there are ideas such as if your opponent goes here and then you go here, your opponent castles. You have already attacking ideas. For example, you can bring the queen over here and you can attack. Or you can do things like going here. And after this, and then you can go attack this pawn. It's under attack. After trading the knight, you can take with the rook to rook left over here. Because this knight is right now protected and maybe attacking ideas later. But the point is that this opening is really, really versatile and you'll have a really, really good position if you play this opening. Even at 1800 level, I've had like a few opponents fall for these traps. So you might win that way. Or even if you don't, you have a really, really good position which your opponent does not know how to navigate because nobody even plays the Tennison's Gambit. It's a really, really rare opening and it has a really, really dank idea, which is to win the queen. And most of your opponents won't be prepared on this and will lose the queen. I am 1800 and I won the queen many times. So if you are 1200, below 1200, I guarantee you 50% of your games, your opponent will blunder the queen. Okay. What if your opponent doesn't take this pawn? If your opponent does not take this pawn and attacks before, then you have to go here. And in this position, although you don't have an attacking game, you have a completely equal position because the material is equal. And although you don't have the castle, you have lost your right to castle, you simply go here and go here and secure your king like this. Hide the king over here, bring your rook over on the open file, pressure here, double up your knight like this, double up your bishop like this, and you'll continue and vibe. Okay, so I'm going to show you a bonus line of the Tennison's Gambit. This is a bonus line and you can win this way too. The line goes e4, d5, the same thing. Your opponent falls for the Tennison's Gambit and instead of going here, you go here. The difference is that now your opponent, if your opponent tries to kick you out with this move, which most beginners will do, you can go queen check. And then after this, you can sacrifice your knight, which they cannot take because if they do, you take your rook, they rook. And if they don't take the knight, for example, they go a move like this, you simply take the rook and you're winning. Now, there's another Trappy line, but that is really risky because if your opponent doesn't fall for it, you might be losing the game. So the line goes bishop f4. Sorry, bishop c4. So the idea behind this move, the agent thinks that it's losing because you sacrifice your queen. And if your opponent takes your queen, which is a blunder, you go here and checkmate. The king has no escape squares and you win the game. And I have played a few games, but those were bullet and blitz games. And I played that when I was under 1000. If you're over 1000, your opponent has probably seen this on YouTube and they'll probably not fall for it. So be mindful of that. If you don't want to go for it, if you are like a high level player and your opponent falls, you can just go here. But I really, really recommend against playing this. If you're below 1000, you can try this. And mostly in bullet and blitz games, it can work for you. But you should play this because this you can play up to 2000 and your opponent will not know what to do. In this position, if your opponent does not guard this pawn, simply take it. You have a knight in the center. You'll develop like this and you will be better. Although the computer thinks you're not, you're definitely better from a human standpoint. Unlike the computer, which thinks like an engine. If you can go trade like this, go here, castle on the next move, do things like this, and you can vibe. I hope you enjoyed learning about the most underrated opening in all of chess, the Tennison's Gambit. I hope you will learn something and smash that subscribe button right now for more valuable content. I'll be seeing you guys soon.